bet you're wondering what's going on. Well, these are my jumping spiders, male and female, Phidippus, regius, Florida. I can't even pronounce it. Anyway, I've raised jumping spiders for a few years now, and I'm hoping now that I'm confident enough, I'm able to breed them. I slowly introduced the male and the female together. You've got to be really careful because females sometimes mistake the male for another male, and I don't want that to happen. Jumping spiders have a fascinating breeding process that involves intricate courtship displays. The males use their vivid colours, body movements and specialised leg gestures to attract the female. Basically, he does a little dance. They often perform a dance, waving the legs and vibrating the bodies to catch the female's attention. You could see this at the beginning of the video, but I found that the male I have did a small dance and that she accepted him straight away and they got to action. After about half an hour, he was still doing this, walking around her. I don't think he knew what he was doing. It's his first time, so bless him, he was just working it out. She didn't seem to care though, she was just too busy eating a mealworm. Not too sure what the process of the mating actually is because there's conflicting information when I'm looking it up online. But I think what he does is use his pedipalps to transfer the sperm over into her. It'd been about 2 hours at this point and I'm thinking, I don't want to move, I don't want to leave them because I don't want anything to happen, I don't want her to mistake him for a meal. And then I just started giving up because at one point they just sat next to each other for a good hour. I think he was just regretting his whole life choices, but it's okay because I give him a little pep talk. He got his confidence back and he gave it another try, and this time it didn't take him long to do what he needed to do. They stayed in this position for about an hour, and after that they separated and I removed him from the enclosure and put him back up into his own. We were around 12 days later and now she'd laid an egg sac. Females will lay eggs in a silk cocoon and this protects the spiderlings until the hatch. Every day she will lay another layer of silk over the top to protect the babies. I lightly misted her enclosure once a day just to make sure they didn't dry out. The eggs began to hatch around 23 days after she laid them. Now this is where I got nervous because although I'd done loads and loads of research and I've raised jumping spiders for a few years now, I still had a huge responsibility because they've laid a lot of babies. Not much I need to do yet because mum will look after them for another few weeks. They're currently L1, but once they reach L2 they will start leaving the nest, and this is where I need to prepare. You can see here they've started just leaving the nest and venturing out a little bit. It won't be long now till they come out of the web and start looking for food. While I was waiting for the spiderlings to leave the nest, I decided to make some little tubs for them to go in for when I separate them. Now the spiderlings will stay together as long as possible just because it helps them hunt for food and things like that, but I'm just trying to prepare in advance. I got these tubs off Amazon and they're little 4-ounce tubs I think. And what I'm going to do is put little holes through the side so they've got some ventilation. I use a needle and just put it over a candle and poke the holes in. I put holes all around the side and I put holes in the bottom as well because I'm going to have the tubs upside down in the end. This was taking ages and I don't have a steady hand, so luckily for me someone else took over and finished the job. Jumping spiders can lay around 150 spiderlings, so it's quite a lot. I needed a lot of tubs. Next I decided to put some pipe cleaners inside so the spiderlings have got something to climb on and jump on. Just twisted them around a pen to make them a bit curly and then I hot glued them into the bottom. Hot glued some into the lid, some into the bottom just because I didn't know which one would work best. Now this was extremely messy. I don't know how you people are doing these arts and crafts without getting hot glue, burns all over yourself and it's spread all across your whole entire house. Although I really did enjoy it, it's quite therapeutic doing this. I left them to dry overnight and air out, and then I took all the little straggly bits off and just neatened them all up. We actually got an outbreak of ants and I had no choice but to remove the spiderlings from the enclosure. With it being a bioactive enclosure, I didn't know if any ants were in the soil. I was lucky enough to have moved my jumping spiders at just the right time. Unfortunately, some of my caterpillars didn't make it. I had the caterpillars next to the jumping spider enclosure and the ants unfortunately killed every single one of them. I did try and save the ones that were remaining, but unfortunately they just died a few hours later. To completely strip the room, seal everything and put cinnamon everywhere to try and prevent it happening again. But it was a really horrible time. These jumping spiders are L2 at the moment, but it wasn't long before the first spider actually ventured out, and within a few days the rest of them had completely ventured out too. The spiderlings are tiny at this stage, so they need the smallest fruit fly that you can get. I tried to make sure they had a constant supply of fruit flies and I'd spray light misting of water daily so they had enough to drink. Just be careful not to spray too much because they can drown in the droplets if they're too big. At L3, L4 the spiders start having a pattern on the abdomen. It's really difficult to record them. One, because they were really shaky and I'm trying to do a really close up of them, but they were just so tiny. This one looks like it's eating up a little bit too much. Just make sure you've always got fruit flies in so they've always got a constant supply of food. These babies are just so adorable, look how tiny he is. Decided to separate them into their own enclosures just because it's easier to keep track of who's eating. When I'm feeding them, I just try and make sure there's like 3 or 4 flies in each enclosure. For anyone who's watched my channel before, you'll know that I've still got a fear of jumping spiders and any spiders in general. Now I'm getting a lot better, and here I try to hold her and handle her for the first time on my own without anybody being around to help me and supervise me. Showed mum my babies and told her how proud she should be. Spiderlings are around L4, L5 now. Spiderlings will create a thick web and molt every couple of weeks. Here's one of the molts. Spiderlings are at L5 now, and this is where they start looking more like a little jumping spider. Sometimes you can tell if they're a male or female at this stage. It's still unclear. I've had jumping spiders before that look obviously female, and then they'll molt again and they're clearly male. This one's an L6, and as you can see, it's so jumpy and it's so adorable. I had her out so I could try and get some photos of her. Now that they're bigger, they can eat different kinds of prey. I like to feed them small houseflies when they're this size, and they'll go longer between each feed now as well. Just make sure you keep an eye on the abdomen size so you're not overfeeding. I always get asked, how far can a jumping spider actually jump? So here's a little video of one of the spiders that I've had out, and you can see she's hopping about, and they don't actually jump that far. Just make sure that when you're handling them, make sure you've got a clean area around you, so if they do jump off your hand and they run off, there's nowhere for them to hide and you will be able to safely get them back with a catch cup. If you're thinking about raising a jumping spider but you're scared of handling them, losing them and things like that, try not to worry too much. I raised jumping spiders for years and I never ever even handled them. I used to have to get somebody to help me out to do this, but I just use a catch cup to transfer them from one enclosure to another when I was upgrading them and things like that. And it's took a lot of years for me to get to this point. I would never have been able to even hold a baby jumping spider. It's definitely helped my arachnophobia raising these jumping spiders throughout the years. And although it's taken a long time and I'm still not fully over it, I must say it's really helped me. But I still have times where I can't even handle the baby jumping spiders. I don't know why, I'm overwhelmed with a fear. And then other times, I'm not too bad, I can handle them. Say I'm not scared of them anymore, but I would say that my body still has the reactions of being scared. It does help that these jumping spiders are the most adorable spiders I've ever seen in my life. It's given me a different perspective of how I see spiders now. Another thing is, when you're holding these jumping spiders, look how he's got a little bungee attached to him. You do have to be careful, because if that's attached to you and you throw your hand to the side, the spider will go along with it. Now let me show you how beautiful Mum is. She's had 3 eggs hatched so far. A third one has hatched and left the nest, so I'm just going to quickly feed her. This is another one of her babies. I think this one's male. As you can see, he's really wide. I say baby, but at L6 is actually a juvenile now. Jumping spiders can live for around 1 to 2 years. Some can even live to 3 years, especially the females. They do tend to live longer than males. If you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe, like and comment. It all helps.